people of St. James North, whom the president of the branch, Ms. Diana Ford, is here as well, right to the front. Deeply honoured to all of you all who would have made this possible here. But we stand today, exactly 2 years after the last election, at the crossroads of parliamentary democracy and of trust in our country. If we do not stand up for what we believe, for what is right, for what is principled, we will soon no longer recognize this country that we love so dearly, that was once so great, that was once the leading developing country in the world and on course to be the smallest developed country in the world. The basis of our system of democracy is that there must exist a bond of trust between those elected by the people to govern and by the governed. Trust is fundamental in any relationship. If we're talking about a cricket team, the players must trust each other. If we're talking about a relationship between a man and a woman, there must be trust involved. The day that you lose trust in your spouse, your girlfriend, your common law, wife, husband, things go on through the errors. All of us in here, big men, big women, know that. The Democratic Labour Party has betrayed the trust of the people of this country. As such, it has lost its moral right to govern the good people of this country. Let's deal with education. The Prime Minister of this country in October 2011 at the Barbados Community College graduation intimated that his government will continue to pay the tuition fees of all Barbadian students at all of our University of the West Indies campuses. That's what he said. That's something that we Barbadians have held sacred for the last 50 years. Free tertiary education, something by virtue of which 80% of the Barbadians who are from working class background were able to move from village to the heights and terraces, were able to have an opportunity in this Barbados and in this world to progress, to move, and to enhance their socio-economic position, not only of themselves, but of their wider families. He said then, as we always agreed to in the Barbados Labour Party, that the government of Barbados should pay the full tuition fees of all Barbadian students at the University of the West Indies. But that was before the last general election. By August 2013, the first budget speech after the last general election, the Minister of Finance announces that Barbadians will from henceforward have to pay tuition fees, full part of their tuition fees at the University of the West Indies. Those tuition fees amount to 20% of the total cost. This, we in the Barbados Labour Party strenuously contend is a backward step, a step that will put us back in the pre-1950s arena when Sir Grantley Herbert Adams started the process of free secondary education in Barbados by making 5 schools at secondary level free for the students. We said that and we have been proven to be correct. The enrollment at the University of the West Indies, all 3 at Cahill alone is down by 4,000, down from 9,000 in the previous academic year. 40% of the Barbadian students at Cahill have dropped out of university. Some dropped out before the start of this school year in September. More dropped out at the start of this semester in January with the realization that the bursaries had not come through. And this is a sad aspect This is something that undermines the fundamental fabric of this society. Glenn Clark will tell you that he and I work in the constituency of the Speaker, the controversial Speaker of the House of Assembly, about 4 weeks ago, canvassing in an area that is regarded as a BLP stronghold. And we encountered a guy, very intelligent, he's a teacher, who said that he had one more year to finish his university degree, and he had to drop out of university. He went to the same Speaker of Parliament, his Member of Parliament, asked, help me out here a bit, give him a few $100, loan me some money, even the bursaries ain't come through yet, loan me some money, please, help me get through. He was refused by the Speaker. He was refused by the Speaker. Now those in St. James North in here will tell you that we help fund university students. We feel that that is our duty and obligation as a politician to help fund those students who cannot afford their education at University of the West Indies. They have to be given an opportunity to get their university degree. Like 14 at least of the 16 members of the Democratic Labour Party, all of whom are from working class poor backgrounds, nothing wrong with that, but who would not be in Parliament today compensated as Prime Ministers and as Ministers of Government but for free tertiary education. The Prime Minister himself, 4 degrees and certificates paid for fully by the Barbadian taxpayers. One of them sitting in cabinet 9-10 years at the University of the West Indies wasting taxpayers' money before he could get his degree. Had he been asked to pay back for 5 of those years, you imagine 9 years to get a university degree and you sitting in cabinet and you could be responsible. You could be responsible collectively to say that universities, that Barbadians now in the year 2016 of our Lord should have to pay their tuition fees. But that's the kind of government that we have right now. Nelson Mandela, one of the greatest individuals accepted all around of this world, certainly of the last century, said that education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. That's what Nelson Mandela said. But it gets worse. Because after that debacle, the Minister of Education in mid-April last year announced that there will be bursaries now to offset this fact that you now have to pay tuition fees. He said then that the Ministry of Education will be providing a substantial number of bursaries so that no eligible Barbadian student will be disadvantaged from attending the University of the West Indies. That is what the Minister of Education said. That the 4,000 who gone home now from university, who dropped out as a direct result of their inability to pay their tuition fees, will not be disadvantaged from attending the University of the West Indies because he bringing in bursaries. On the 11th of July, opening a Chinese center laying the ground for it at the University of the West Indies. He then said, in the first few years, we will do some 3,000 bursaries to help these University of the West Indies students with challenges. He then said that this has already been agreed to. That's what the Minister of Education said, that the bursaries had been agreed to. He said that 7 months ago. And that the bursaries would have been launched in 2 weeks' time, and that they were to be made available to students from all 3 university campuses of the West Indies. He said then that these bursaries would cover about 50% of the successful applicants' tuition costs. He also said that on that occasion that students at Hugh Wooden Law School would not have to pay tuition fees. Lo and behold, of course, when the Hugh Woodin Law School students went down the next month to Hugh Woodin, they were told that they had to pay tuition fees. And many of them came back home, can't pay $4,000 or $5,000 tuition fees. They hadn't planned for it. First time they heard so, that they had to pay was when they went down to Hugh Woodin. And this was after an assurance by the Minister of Education that their tuition fees would be continued to be paid by the Barbados government. Nothing further on these bursaries until July the 28th on 7 o'clock, BLP News, the GIS announces that bursary application forms would be available on the following day. Now that was after I issued a statement, highly critical of the BLP, asking where these bursaries, where the application form, what is the criteria? Will someone from a BLP represented constituency have a better chance of getting these bursaries than someone from St. James North? Would someone who is a close relative of the Democratic Labour Party figure have a better chance of getting a bursary than a member of the Barbados Labour Party's child? After I made that statement, on news in the night, you hear the application form will be available the next day. This was a hijack of Barbadian young people, an insult and offense to Barbadian students. Over 1,800 went down to the Ministry of Education for these forms. You had to take down all kinds of documentation. What day you're born, who was your grandmother, how much money your mother or father making, all that kind of stuff. I had some of the forms at my office, those who couldn't get down there, Constitution Road, come and fill out. We can carry them in for you. 1,800 plus students worked over their eyes because nothing further heard on these bursaries then until 9 days ago. In the meantime, people registering at university graciously accommodating them, saying, look, you can pay like a mortgage month to month, if you could. But some people unable to find $600-700 to pay, even on a monthly basis, falling the $6,000 in full tuition fees, if you some faculties and 10,000 in others. 9 days ago, we finally hear that they find the bursary money somehow or another. In the interim, of course, the Ministry of Finance chides the Minister of Education and says, well, look, you can't be making promises about finance on this issue without consulting us, and you're going to have to find the money on your own. But 9 days ago, but don't make it feel that you can go tomorrow and get a bursary, because nobody has still not got any bursary. And over half the school year is finished. In the next couple of months, students will be starting to write the final exams. So these bursaries now are of absolutely no use to very few people for this semester year. Over 40% of the students have already dropped out of the university. It has been announced that the bursaries will only be $1,800 rather than 50% of the courses was announced. 50% would be at least $3,000, only for $1,800. And we have to start uncovering this person who is the Prime Minister of Barbados. Because when he could tell Barbadians at the BLP that time, whatever they call it, 2 Fridays ago, I think it was, that people who drive cars that worth $150,000, who live in stone houses, and who take their children to Disneyland, can afford to pay tuition fees, he clearly has lost contact with the common Barbadian. Because the 4,000 students who have dropped out of the University of the West Indies, the parents say got $150,000 cars, or take the children to Disneyland, I can tell you so for sure that that is the case in St. James North. Those who have dropped off live in board houses, They got 10 people in the house. They have brothers and sisters about the age. In a lot of cases, it's single parents. The parents lost the job, one of the 3,500 that laid off, and can't get the severance from the Employment Rights Tribunal or redundancy pay. The unemployment benefits run out. Those who still may be eligible for unemployment benefit can't get any since November because the NIS tell you all the time that the change in the system, so you can't get, which can't be correct, you can't be changing the system for the last 5 months. So you can't get your maternity benefit, unemployment benefit, NIS, disability benefit, nothing at all. And I'm sure that Bright and Klein would have people in St. George in similar positions because all of we is one. So the Democratic Labour Party has lost contact with the people. They have lost if they ever had the common touch. Clive Maxwell told us that the $42 million that the Minister of Finance said would be saved because University of the West Indies students will now have to pay tuition fees is an understatement, and he is totally correct, because with the dropping out of 4,000 odd students, they have saved the government of Barbados much more than 42 million from the education of Barbadians. Yet, the government of Barbados still owes the University of the West Indies over $150 million. When they promised two estimates ago in April 2013, that they would pay $40 million every quarter. Now, we need to tell this Prime Minister about it. He likes to insult Barbadians and tell them that you have to look up the word temporary in the dictionary and all of that. We have to teach him what is the meaning of the word threat. Because he then said, the same 2 Fridays ago, how the president of the Guild of Undergraduates that we wrote him a threatening letter. All the president said is that if we cannot have a response from your office on the issue of bursaries, which provides the student body with confidence and with comfort, then I shall have no choice but to seek a mandate from the general body of students at our AGM on February 11th and to follow its commands. Is that a threat? But I wouldn't Prime Minister call it a threat. We're going to have to send him to the dictionary to find out what the word threat means. In 2008, the Democratic Labour Party paraded up and down this country speaking about the need for integrity legislation and the need for transparency and accountability. I am one who agrees fully that any politician should be able to declare their assets and their liabilities. That should be a must. And that anyone who cannot declare their assets and liabilities ought not to be in public life. Corruption and bribery takes away millions of dollars from this economy every year. Millions of dollars. In February 2012, the Prime Minister of this country said we are coming now with an integrity bill that can cover people in public life in Barbados and to make sure that the quality of public life in this country is elevated beyond where we are seeing it now. The ironic thing is that the Prime Minister made that comment at a meeting of the St. Michael West constituency branch in the presence of Michael Carrington. No integrity legislation is yet enforced in Barbados. No commission has been established that will take the assets and liabilities and other criteria necessary under the Prevention of Corruption Act. The Prevention of Corruption Act, which was passed in both houses of Parliament just before the last election in December 2012, also deals with campaign financing. You will see on the front page of the paper 3 notable citizens of this country speaking about campaign financing. and campaign funding on election day. That piece of legislation speaks towards that issue. The question is, why has the Democratic Labour Party not found it fit to enact this law? The real truth is that the Prime Minister has been told by his party's party task not to bring in this law. So therefore you have a handful of BLP lawyers, all connected to the BLP, their pals, their friends, their campaign managers, children of former BLP cabinet ministers, charging excessive legal fees, $900,000 for legal work, when the fees should have been no more than $200,000, $1.6 million. You read in the paper a couple months ago about one lawyer charging $750,000, all of them connected to the BLP. While 3,500 public servants plus have gone home. And these lawyers charging this kind of money, business partners of BLP, ministers and others. It is left to your imagination as to what is happening with this money, these excessive legal fees, why they are being so charged. All of this while major financiers of the Democratic Labour Party walking both free, saying that they did nothing wrong, while 30,000 Barbadians can't get their money from CIPO, as promised by the Minister of Finance, as promised by the Prime Minister. People, you're hearing money slashed away in deceased relatives' bank accounts. That's what you're hearing, all of us are hearing, I don't know. You would have to tell me if it is true. You're hearing as well about luxury vehicles being driven by people in high places, but registered in the name of companies doing business with departments under the ministries of these people who drive in these luxury vehicles. You hearing it? I don't know. We will release the information at the relevant time. The proof, the spiritual wickedness of the highest degree in high places. That's what is happening in this country right now. There is a moral decay in this society by a government that spoke to, they want to create not only an economy but a society. There is need, I want to suggest, for constitutional reform. We should be able to have a constitutional right to recall members of parliament. That is what should happen. The speaker should no longer be speaker. That is the reality. We must have some principles. This is a part of our parliamentary Westminster style democracy. How can the present speaker of this parliament go to a conference, any conference, Commonwealth conference, representing Barbados, and be with the speaker of England or Canada or Australia? Do you think that they will respect it? After what we have read and heard about within the last month, this now has to do with the country called Barbados, the sovereign nation of Barbados, independent going on 50 years. This is not about a Prime Minister, this is not about a Mia Motley or Glenn Clark, Dwight Sutherland, Edmund Hickson, this is about Barbados. And we have a duty to protect our sacred and noble institutions. The Prime Minister's defense of the Speaker is an insult to all those who have had money being withheld from them by attorneys at law for an unreasonable length of time. I practiced law in this country for 30 years. I have never had a complaint in writing made against me by anyone, by any client to the Bar Association. So when the Prime Minister dismisses this and says this is normal thing called lawyers get complaints, he's wrong. It is an insult even to those Democratic Labour Party supporters who have had money withheld by lawyers after an unreasonable length of time. And ethics are more important than any ancient rights and privileges of Parliament. We are calling you all today a call to arms. You know, we have to defend this country. Plato said that the punishment which the wise suffer, who refuse to take part in the government, is to live under the government of worse men. And we are slowly but surely slipping into that position. But we will survive. The Lord is on our side. And we will go forward to the next election and change what is the worst government in the history of this country. Thank you.